Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here, back once again with my friend Rod Giltaca from the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights in video 4 of our series on comprehensive firearms skills. We're going to be going over some basic skills but advanced details. It's very important that you pay attention to the details of this video. So what are we going to be learning today, Rod?
We're going to be learning a lot of things, and we're going to be doing a little shooting, so that's good, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So first thing we want to talk about is a couple of preparatory items for the shooting that we're going to be doing. Number one, binocular shooting. You always want to keep both your eyes open. So the kind of shooting that we're doing, we want to make sure that our awareness is everywhere as much as we can. You know, humans' eyes are really fascinating things. We have more than 180 degrees worth of peripheral vision when we have both eyes open. And that comes down quite a bit when you have one eye closed. So resist the urge to close an eye unless you have to take a really long shot and you have all the time in the world. For most of this stuff, we want to keep both eyes open. And you want to train yourself that way so that when you bring your firearm up, bring your rifle up, you know where that dot's supposed to be, even though you see two of them. So that's something you want to train on all the time. Next, make sure that your rifle is sighted in. And I'm a prolific offender of not having a rifle sighted in, but if you have one or two rifles, or one or two handguns or whatever that you're likely to use in competition or what have you, always have those sighted in. I have many firearms, most of them aren't sighted in very well, but make sure the firearms that you're likely to use at any of these events is sighted in perfectly. You have a wide variety of choices, whether you want to sight them in at 50 or 100 meters or at 300, it's up to you. When it comes to sighting them, we're not going to talk about it. That's a big topic. There are tons of videos out there that you can go learn, probably tens of thousands that you can learn about how to sight in your rifle. We're not going to cover it here. Next thing, your personal protective equipment, right? You're going to need eye protection and hearing protection. When it comes to hearing protection, a little pro tip for you, I wear earplugs typically and then electronic ear protection over top. And I crank the electronic ear pro way up so that I can hear people talking when there's no shooting going on, but my hearing is really well protected, especially if you're shooting high pressure cartridges like 223, otherwise known as 5.56 NATO. A lot of pressure there, around 65,000 PSI. It's gonna damage your hearing if you're not really well protected. Another thing, make sure that you're wearing gloves. Guns get hot, number one. And number two, if you're ever in an area where you don't have access to medical services, how long do you think does it take when you get a cut on your hand for an infection to take hold? Like 24 hours. So protect your hands. You don't want them getting cut up. You need your hands. They're one of the most important parts on your body when it comes to operating firearms. Training while you're wearing gloves is harder than using your bare hands, but it's probably good that you get used to it ahead of time.
Especially too, like just even loading cartridges or, you know, getting your thumb jammed in the gun doesn't feel good, and that little bit of protection can go a long way to mitigate that.
Yeah, so do what works for you, just a suggestion. So now that you have a gun on you, it's unloaded, we're gonna go over the range safety rules, which is really important. So the most important ones are, keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger guard unless you've made the conscious decision to discharge a round. If you're not actively shooting, then keep your finger off the trigger. If you're gonna take multiple shots, it's okay to have your finger on the trigger, but when you're done, finger off the trigger and you're gonna run your safety. So make sure that your safety is on at all times. If you get a shoot command or a threat command, you're gonna flick your safety off, take your 1, 2, 3, 5 shots, whatever. You're gonna scan, breathe, flick the safety back on before you put your rifle down to that resting position that you have it. You want to control your muzzle direction at all times. That is the cardinal rule of guns. No matter what you're doing, all this manipulation, these different shooting positions we're going to talk about, you have to be conscious of where your muzzle is pointing at all times. And the reason why that's the cardinal rule is when all of these other overlapping layers of safety fail and a round comes out of that gun, the last thing you have is it wasn't pointing at anybody. You also have to be conscious of where your bullet's going to go after it passes through the target. So if we're engaging 4 targets like we have laid out here in a minute, you have to be conscious of where's my bullet going to end up after it passes through the target. Those are your firearm safety rules. So the first thing we're going to talk about is shouldering your rifle. Now you're using an X95. So that's a bullpup configuration, not like a traditional rifle. So the way that you shoulder it is going to be up to you, whatever works for you. Some people have really wide shoulders. Some people have a very long neck. For me, typically I'll put the buttstock actually riding above my shoulder. I'll stick it in this little, just the bottom of it in this little pocket and come out like that. And I bring the rifle up to my face. I don't bring my face down to the rifle. If you're uncomfortable, you won't be able to stay like that. Sometimes you have to stay like that for a long time. So maybe try bringing the rifle up a little bit more so you don't have to bring your face down. See what I'm saying? Yeah, so that might be a little bit more comfortable. Again, it's personal preference, what works for you. Under an extreme stress response, typically your body will want to go square to whatever it is that's threatening you, right? Dog comes, usually you're not going to be in a fighting stance. You're going to be like this, your hands are going to automatically go up, and you'll be square to the threat. So some people believe, in the tactical community you could say, if you're going to do something naturally, you might as well do that in practice, because that's how you're going to end up anyway. So for me, I stand square. I bring the rifle right up to my face like this. So there's only actually just a little bit of the buttstock resting in this pocket, and I tend to stay like this. That makes sure that if I'm wearing armor, it's all at the front where it's supposed to be, and I'm in a position that I might naturally, under stress, end up in anyway. When it comes to placing a round, if you end up with a threat command, and we'll go over this again just before we start shooting, is you may be down in kind of a low port or low ready position. You'll get a command to shoot, you'll come up, sight in your target, flick your safety off, place your round, take your finger off the trigger. You're gonna take a deep breath and you're gonna look around. And when you look around, after you scan, you're gonna put your safety back on and then relax and go to whatever position that you're waiting for. And we'll go over that more. But when you look around, here's what's important with that. You gotta really look around. You'll see a lot of guys that do this stuff for a living, meaning military or police, doing drills. They'll come up, safety off, fire a round, decide they're done shooting, flick their safety on. They'll take a big, deep breath and they'll go like this. And they're doing that because they don't want to do push-ups, because they didn't scan, but they're not really looking. They're doing it to satisfy somebody else. When you're doing it because you're seriously looking around. You look all the way behind you, right? It should look like this. Like look around, break that. You're really looking for threats. And then later I'm gonna stand behind you and I'm gonna be like this. I'm gonna have fingers showing. And when you look behind, I'm gonna say, how many fingers was I holding up? You have to notice things. You even have to force yourself to go, oh wow, look at all these tables. You know, oh, it's getting clear out. You know, the gate's open. You should be noticing things because that's what's gonna break that tunnel vision. So the next thing, trigger control. You're gonna pull the trigger straight back, slowly and smoothly at the same rate of speed. So when you have a command, you're not gonna be yanking the trigger and moving the gun all over the place. You're gonna slowly and at the same rate of speed, depress the trigger straight back. Slowly and smoothly, directly to the rear, not yanking the trigger. Okay. And when it comes to shooting, your first shot is gonna be the most accurate because you're just operating the rifle. So it's almost like the first shot is the way you need to shoot for the rest of your life. You don't know when the gun is gonna go off. Your job is just to pull the trigger. And what happens is that first shot, you're like, oh, I'm right on target. And then you get progressively worse. The reason you get progressively worse is you're starting to anticipate. So you're tensing up when you think the trigger's gonna break and the rifle's gonna recoil. You're like, oh, I gotta control this rifle. It's like your job is to hold it firm and let the rifle recoil and get back on target. Let the rifle do its job, you do your job. So you wanna be able to shoot in a variety of positions so that you know that you're able to shoot in those positions should you find yourself in one of them. The first time you do something shouldn't be the first time you've ever done it, like we said, right? So standing is fairly easy, right? We're gonna be standing isosceles directly in front of the target, great. If you can move for you, I guess your left, right? But for me, if I move my right foot back just a little bit, like literally 6 inches, that helps, okay? The next position is kneeling. You may have to take a knee. So I would hold your rifle up to the target and then take a knee. You can sit on the back of your knee if you want to take an accurate shot, or you can be up in a position where you can stand up quickly if you need to. Then the next position is both knees. So throw your other knee behind you. Good. Now we're gonna pretend we're taking a shot from the seated position. So if you look here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your hand back here, and you can do it like that. And then we're gonna lay all the way back. Bring your knees up so they're not in the way of the muzzle, and see if you can get a sight picture. You don't really have to secure the rifle, you're gonna use your hands. It's not gonna be an accurate way to shoot, but see if you can get your red dot or your reticle on one of those steel targets in the back there.
Yep.
So we're actually gonna be shooting from this position too when we start shooting. Then we're gonna roll over onto your right or left side. So you wanna have a variety of positions available to you that you've done before and fired rounds that you can get into these. You'll see tons of videos of guys doing these different positions. To me, there isn't really a right or wrong way. There's some ways that are better than others. As long as nothing is in front of the muzzle and you want to be as stable as you possibly can, you can do it any possible way. As long as you can get a sight picture, that's important. Now, when it comes to getting up, it's important. You want to be as efficient as possible. And again, you can do it a variety of different ways. If you're in this position, you're shooting from seated, let's practice getting up. Now, we're trying to keep our rifle on target. So you can go like this, put one hand behind you, bring up one of your hands, and then stand straight up. There you go. Out there in training, you're gonna hear really two terms. You're gonna hear speed reload and tactical reload. Speed reload is your gun is empty, so that's a problem. And tactical reload means I have some time, I'm just gonna top up my gun, not make myself, not standing there with an unloaded gun, but I have some time, I'm gonna top it up. And I'm gonna change magazines, I'm gonna remove a magazine that's not empty. All right, so we have an empty magazine in our pocket or on our gear somewhere. We have an empty magazine in the gun itself. So first thing is a speed reload. This is what's gonna happen if we don't, if we don't have any more ammunition, we're standing there with a unloaded gun. So we're shooting, we're pulling the trigger, something goes wrong, we're like, what's happening here? We're gonna turn the gun and look in the chamber. And we're gonna see whether there's a double feed in there, whether there's a round stuck in the chamber, like an empty casing or a live round, or it's just empty. Chances are it's just empty. So we're gonna look, be like, okay, I need to reload. Then you're gonna bring the gun in, and you're gonna strip this mag out. Now this is important, and there's a couple of different ways of doing this. Some people you're gonna see are going to spin their rifle like this while they hit the magazine eject, and the empty magazine is gonna go flying. And at the same time, they're already coming up with a new magazine. That works great, and it looks awesome. And it is super efficient. The problem is if there's some dirt or something's in the magazine well, and that magazine doesn't come out, now you're standing there with an unloaded gun, and the magazine stuck in there, and you have a full mag in this hand. And so that was a tip I picked up from a US Navy SEAL, first combat rifle course I ever took way back in the day. See what's going on in there? Yes, I'm only just empty. I'm gonna bring this around, strip that mag, get rid of it. This is worthless. And you're bringing that new magazine up in and give it a whack to make sure it's seated. Now, some people also say instead of giving it a whack, just pull it downwards to make sure it's seated. Either way is fine. And then get back up on target once your action's closed. So for me to close the action, I have a little paddle, or I can run the charging handle. For you, it's right in the back. So magazine in, make sure it's seated, get the action closed, come right back up on target so that you're ready to shoot if you need to do that. The other kind of reload, nothing bad is happening right now. I just want to top my gun up, and that is your tactical reload. So how we're going to do that is, let's say we had a 30 round magazine and we shot 15, 18 rounds. You don't know kind of where you're at. You're like, okay, you know what? I want to top this up now because I have the time. So I'm going to bring my gun back up like this. I'm going to get the new mag and I'm going to make an L right at the bottom here. So I'm going to release this mag and push this one back in. And now I'm going to make sure that this isn't the next magazine I pull because it's partly empty. If I have a dump pouch, I'll put it in my dump pouch. If I have some other way to stow it, a pocket, I'll put it in there. Okay. You might need it later. Yeah. Okay, so now, if you want to practice exactly both of these skills, just keep doing this L thing and keep turning this mag. Right? This is how you can train yourself to make sure that you're able to do it at all times. Right? You can train yourself at home. You don't even have to have a loaded gun to do that. And when it comes to your regular speed reloads, you can train yourself, again, with no ammunition. So it's free. You can do it at home. Just make sure your firearm is completely unloaded and just put a magazine, come up, safety off, pull the trigger. Get your sight picture. Get your sight picture and pull the trigger. Then you go, oh, I have to reload my gun. Take this magazine out, throw it on the ground, pull another one, pop it in, give it a whack, close the action, get back up on target, safety off, pull the trigger. All right, now you got your hoodie off. That's good. You're cool in so many.
BC, so
you're cool in so many ways. Something that we need to cover is malfunctions. So we're not going to get into detail here. Again, the whole point of this series isn't to cover every single thing, every possible thing. You can go elsewhere for that kind of stuff. So malfunctions, learn how to clear them for the rifle you're running. Clearing a malfunction from the rifle that you're running is going to be different than an AR-15 or the rifle that I'm running. The other thing that we're not going to cover today is transition to secondary. So you'll see a lot of training where you'll have a pistol and you'll have a rifle. Your rifle goes dry or there's some kind of catastrophic malfunction. You'll bring the rifle down and you'll reach for your pistol, dry your pistol and shoot. We're not going to get into that today because again, we're trying to get the basics down and we only have so much time. Okay, so why don't we do one from standing, one kneeling, one sitting, one laying back, and one standing.
okay.
Take your time with each one. Okay, safety on because you're going to start doing weird stuff. All right, hand back, throw that leg out. Okay, safety on just in case. Okay, lay back, knees up. No, both knees, lay straight back, both knees right up. Now let's see if you can take a shot like that. All right, now safety on. Sit up and see if you can stand up. Stand up while maintaining a sight picture.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Let me try that again.
Okay, when you put your hand back, put your leg behind you, if you can. There you go. Okay, take a shot. All right. So try to just hold the rifle steady and let it do its job. Okay, tactical reload. So when you do that, you're trying to keep a sight picture in case you head to fire, right? Okay. So you're in low ready. You can turn your safety off. I'm going to give you a threat command. But then once you shoot a round, pause, look around a little bit in front of you, flick to safe, and you're taking 2 big deep breaths when you do that, okay? So we're trying to bring stuff in. Okay, threat. Okay. Threat. Okay, did you take a deep breath?
Forgot about
Yeah, force yourself to take a really deep breath because if your heart is racing for some reason, you want to try to take every opportunity that you can to bring it down. Okay. Let's try another one. Toss that. Okay, we're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to put it all together 100% of the time this time. Okay, in low ready is just looking over the sight. There you go. Threat. Deep breath. Great. All right, threat. How many fingers was I holding up?
2.
Perfect. Threat. Threat. You gotta hit the target. Keep shooting if you miss it. Gotta hit it. There we go. Took a look around for sure. Nothing was going on behind you. deep breath. Okay, threat. Big breath. All right. Okay. Okay, you're gonna do that drill one more time. One standing, one kneeling, one sitting, one laid back, stand right up, and one at the very end standing.
Okay, so no breathing, none of that stuff?
Well, you wanna be breathing while you're doing it, but
we're not doing that.
And then at the end, because this is whatever evolution that you decided to commit to. It's like, I gotta do this, this, and this, and this. Yeah. And it's like, okay, there's no more shooting.
Again.
Threat. Okay, super careful. Okay, going safe because you're gonna be, okay, and let's stand up and finish. Yeah. All right, now, big breath. All right, good.
All right, guys, so this is the end of this video. Make sure you come back for video 5, where we finally start throwing some rounds downrange.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.